St. Andrew.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I really would have hoped that the member for St. Philip West would have made his presentation at this time, because my understanding from the Leader of the House is that he was supposed to speak. And my reading of the situation is that he does not want to let the people of Barbados know a lot of the shortcomings in his ministry. And as a result, he would rather be drawn into this debate. But I believe that it is only fitting that he be drawn into this debate, because he has to tell the people of Barbados why we are having this serious problem with sewage creeping up in the roads, creeping up all over the place in Christchurch. He has to let us know why it is that the tourism sector has been affected as a result of his failure to manage properly the affairs of the Barbados Water Authority. Easily the worst minister responsible for water that we've ever had in this country. And if it takes me that categorization to make sure that he enters this debate, well, I will go further. Mr. Speaker, I will go further. But Mr. Speaker, we have...
Honourable Member, I'm not Mr. Speaker. I am not Mr. Speaker.
Madam Speaker, Madam Deputy Speaker, sorry. Madam Deputy Speaker. Madam Deputy Speaker, we have a very serious problem on the South Coast. I would have preferred to have heard him and then to speak after him. But, you know, I draw attention to a comment that he made with respect to a new sewage plant. It does not seem, I was a former minister of water, responsible for water, and although I'm not a technician, I'm fully aware of the problems facing the people in Christchurch, the area surrounding the sewage plant. But he doesn't understand what is required at this time. I would like to say, though, before I get to that point, and I want to mention the question, I want to deal with this question of the management of the Barbados Water Authority and the sewage system, because we are supposed to be debating estimates of expenditure, and the members on that side have not dealt with the estimates, because they realize that the estimates as presented are not the type of estimates to which we are accustomed. They have come at a time when they don't have a mandate, and therefore they have resorted to all sorts of accusations, and one would believe that they came to office only last year, because I'm hearing about things that the Barbados Labour Party did way back in 2000, in the year 2000, in the 1990s, and they have not addressed the estimates. So if they, on that side, have not addressed the estimates, well, I think that I would want to deal with an issue which has affected all Barbadians. Mr. Speaker, Madam Deputy Speaker, I thought I would want to draw attention to those matters. But we have a very serious, I mean, the situation with respect to sewage has nothing to do with the sewage plant. It has a lot to do with the management. It has its genesis in the management of the Barbados Water Authority by the minister responsible for water in this country. No, you have a situation where, or rather the problem that the Barbados Water Authority is facing with respect to the sewage has a lot to do with the failure of the Barbados Water Authority to have the adequate resources resources which are being directed to a company, Initech Services, and the related companies. So that the problem with the Barbados Water Authority, if the minister was interested in dealing with the problems with the Barbados Water Authority, the first thing they have to do is to make sure that they have an inspection of the entire system. And the inspection of the system would involve CCTV, a CCTV inspection, and that facility is not available. And the Barbados Water Authority, they have refused simply because of the unavailability of resources which are being directed to Initech Services and its related companies. And I would like the minister to tell us what is his involvement with respect to those companies. Those companies, the funds of the Barbados Water Authority being diverted to Initech Services and the related companies. Having done that inspection, and this is what the Barbados Water Authority needs to do, obviously you would have to prioritize the type of problems that are being assessed, the type of problems which that inspection would have shown up, and thereafter a costing of the problems would have to be done. And obviously we would have to have a time schedule for the correction of those problems. But Mr. Speaker, central to the problems with respect to the Barbados Water Authority is the fact that you have a sewage plant, you have a person or persons managing the sewage plant that are not engineers. You have brought in a general manager that is not an engineer. It is like you have a hospital, and you have an administrator of a hospital, and you've brought in someone who is not a doctor, and that person is supposed to solve a heart problem. And this is the problem with respect to the Barbados Water Authority's problem with respect to the sewage plant. You have a manager of wastewater who knows with a degree in biology, a political, the problem is political, strictly political. A political operative who has been given a position as manager of wastewater, and you have engineers in the Barbados Water Authority who are dealing with this same entity and who have been sidelined, and this problem only started after those people have been replaced. So that unless you have the correct technical people to deal with this issue, I don't want to call her name. I don't think Pat Ennis would like me to call her name. I didn't mean to call her name. That was just a slip. But a person who ran in the last election for the Democratic Labour Party, and you are bringing all sorts of problems, or stating that all sorts of things apart from the real problem is responsible for the Barbados, for the problem now that is being faced in the South Coast. So, you know, and one of the other things with respect to a comment which was made by the minister, and it shows in some respects his ignorance of what is required at this particular point in time. He is saying that you need a new sewage plant. You don't need a new sewage plant. The problems are connected to the collection systems. And the leaks in the connection systems are what has been causing the problems. But because of the fact that he has been unable to get the correct personnel, and the fact that the engineers within the Barbados Water Authority, you can imagine the engineer, the former general manager of the acting general manager, and the former engineer who was responsible for sewage, for wastewater. the most experienced person in the Caribbean in this particular area, is not being utilized at all, and you are bringing in people to deal with a situation, and these people, they have not been consulted at all. And in the meantime, you have a minister who is ensuring that persons, operatives who have been consultants are now being given, they're either being appointed to the Barbados Water Authority on a permanent basis, or are being given contracts, 5-year contracts and things like that. So the problem, this is a political problem. The problem with respect to the Barbados Water Authority, the sewage system, is a political problem which the minister has allowed to surface on us for quite some time. But, Mr. Speaker, getting back to my earlier point with respect to the estimates, it is fairly obvious that the Democratic Labour Party has no credibility with respect to the presentation of these estimates. We are now 3 weeks away from from Parliament being dying. 3 weeks, and you are bringing measures. You are bringing measures to this House which cannot be implemented. And there was a very interesting article sometime this week in the newspapers by Tennyson Joseph. And with respect to what, there's a very interesting, also very interesting, some very interesting words by there are very, yeah. There are some very interesting words which were mentioned. A quote from Winston Churchill with respect to the mandate of this government, in bringing these estimates. The people have the right to choose representatives in accordance with their wishes and feelings, and I cannot think of anything more odious than for a Prime Minister to carry on with a Parliament so aged and to try to grapple with the perplexing and tremendous problems being refreshed by contact with the people. Mr. Speaker, it is fairly obvious that these estimates are being brought at a time when they know that they don't have the time to do the necessary implementation. And when you are talking about Barbados Sustainable Recovery Plan, this is even worse, because this is the 7th occasion on which they have brought a similar plan, and that they have brought a similar plan, and they themselves have not been able to follow through with it. So, Mr. Speaker, Madam Deputy, I can only explain these estimates and the Barbados Sustainable Recovery Plan as an attempt. It can only be explained as an attempt by them to hold on to another 3 months' salary or whatever. That is all it can be attributed to. I can't say, Mr. Speaker, that it is a public relations exercise, because when
Honourable Member, I am not Mr. Speaker.
Madam Deputy Speaker, you can't say that it is a public relations exercise, because I have had the opportunity of canvassing in almost every constituency, and you're hearing the people say, I can't even wait to see the back of them. When will elections be called? I mean, the people cannot wait to see the back of this government. They cannot wait to see the back of this government, so it can't be a public relations exercise. And I mean, and you see part of their public relations exercise only yesterday in this Parliament, where Mr. Speaker, you have a situation where now they are so desperate that they are even funding subsidiary parties. You normally have situations where you have a political party being formed. You have a political party being formed to attack the governing party. You have a political party being formed to attack a existing political party, existing government. But you have a political party now being formed to attack the opposition, being funded by the Democratic Labour Party.
Yes, honourable member.
Right?
Christchurch West.
Being funded by the Democratic Labour Party.
Madam Deputy Speaker, it is important that the people of the country know the law. The law of Barbados allows minor parties or opposition parties to receive a subvention. Let me assure you that the United Progressive Party, if it receives any money from the governing administration, it is the subvention to which we are entitled. Allow me also, Madam Speaker. Allow me, Madam Speaker.
Honourable member for St. Michael Northeast, I'd like to hear.
Allow me, Madam Speaker, also to make the point that the subvention that opposition parties receive was actually an initiative of the Barbados Labour Party. When they came to power in 1994. So they certainly should have no objection whatsoever to opposition parties receiving that subvention.
Thank you, honourable member. You are not required to make a speech.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I was not making a point with respect to any funding by any government. I am making a point, and this is, I have concrete evidence which shows me that the ruling Democratic Labour Party is funding subsidiary parties. If the member who just spoke is thinking that I mean the UPP, well then she is just confirming what everybody in Barbados know at this particular point in time. A political party is formed to oppose a government. You have had the National Democratic Party being formed in this country. The National Democratic Party was a splinter group of the Democratic Labour Party, and what differentiates the National Democratic Party from the UPP is that the UPP has been specifically formed to attack the Barbados Labour Party. And the Barbados, remember, it shows the weight of public opinion where it is, because it is.
Madam Deputy Speaker, on a point of order, the honourable member is misleading the House.
Not we.
I wish to place on record to state categorically that the United Progressive Party did not or was not formed to oppose the opposition. The Constitution of Barbados allows for the formation of political parties by the citizens of this country who believe that they have the intellectual capacity to serve this country at the highest level. That is why we received free education, and we are putting it to good use. But it seems as though, Madam Deputy Speaker, that there are people on this side who believe that governance is for the reserve of a particular class and a particular people. we condemn that. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Point
But Mr.
taken.
Speaker, and if Madam Deputy Speaker, I apologize. I apologize. I apologize profusely. You know, by absolutely to age.
Apology accepted.
You know, if I had any doubts about it, I was convinced when I heard the word demons being used. You know, demons, there are only two people in this house that I've heard use the term demons. That is the person who just spoke, and the other member for Christchurch East Central. And I will quote what he said. Until many of our young people being cleansed. Now, the young people, the minister of it, he is not only the member for Christchurch East Central, he is also the minister of education. I mean, and he has so trained, and his pupillage and his tutelage has been so correct that the language of the Democratic Labour Party has been used by the member who just spoke. And I repeat, until many of our young people are cleansed of demons that are in the soul and their souls, we will continue to get the type of behavior that we are experiencing now. I mean, everything came together. Everything came together. The categorizing of demons. So I just mentioned that to show you the desperation of the Democratic Labour Party, having not been able, some of the members of the Democratic Labour Party cannot even go into their constituencies. They're bad PR, they're now having advertisements. You mean a cleanup campaign. You can imagine the member for St. Michael Northwest is so desperate now that he is advertising on Facebook a cleanup campaign. I mean, but nobody over there dealt with the estimates. Huh? You know, that is what he is. You know, so it shows that even the public relations campaign is not working. But Mr. Speaker, Madam Deputy Speaker, it shows us with respect to the brain of these estimates at this time, the need for constitutional amendment, because there is no way. I mean, the member for St. Michael North, the member for St. Michael North spoke about the fear of having the Constitution amended at this time to put back the Constitution a little further. I mean, obviously he was not reading the Constitution, but I can understand the sentiments when he mentioned that. I do not think that a prime minister should not be able to more or less, I would like to say usurp, but I can't think of a better word, the will of the people, and use a constitution at this stage to put the governance of this country to ransom. And doing so, it flies in the face of public opinion. Flies in the face of public opinion, Mr. Speaker. And I believe that there should be some, obviously, I think the people of Barbados, they are listening. The people of Barbados are listening. And I believe that the Barbados Labour Party will get the mandate to amend the Constitution in the future. I do not necessarily believe in term limits. To amend the Constitution to ensure that after 6 months, or rather 6 months or at least a year before the election, that either Parliament or some other entity has the right to call on the Prime Minister to set a date for the election by a certain time. There is no way that we should be in this situation like this, where public opinion The Prime Minister is obviously flying in the face of public opinion, and I think that that legislation should be in place. But, Mr. Speaker, Madam Deputy Speaker, you know, when I think in the terms of what we are seeing now, it reminds me, or rather, when I see what the type of leadership, I also have naked.com as well. But when I see the type of leadership that we are having now from the Democratic Labour Party, it is fairly obvious. It is fairly obvious that there is a reason for it. And their leadership culture, you know, they're all rattled. They're all rattled. They're all rattled. All rattled at this particular
Honourable members, can we have some order in the chamber, please?
All rattled. They're all rattled. Their leadership culture is such that it is something that we should actually look at. You know, because of the time when they have brought, because of the time that they have brought these estimates, if I look at my constituency and what they have done or failed to do, you know, at one time I would ask, then will the road in White Hill be fixed? I can no longer do that. I now have to ask, why the roads in White Hill, why the roads in St. Andrew have not been fixed? Now you have a situation where an entire village was more or less divided in two. And they did absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. So they should be able to tell us why. They should be able to come and tell us why the Payne development plan, new police station, post office, community center, and a sports pavilion, why they did not implement the...
Honourable member, you have 2 minutes left.
The Payne development plan.
Would you wind up, please?
Mr. Speaker, but you know, they cannot come and tell us why they have not done these things. You know why? Because it's part of a culture, the culture of the type of leadership. And part of their leadership is to punish persons who did not vote for them. And this is one of the reasons why we have not seen the type of development or the correction to the problem that we have seen in White Hill and the areas in St. Andrew with respect to the roads. It is also part of their culture to ignore all advice, and to call people by all sorts of names, Mr. Speaker. And you see it recently with respect to the comments by the Attorney General of the, with respect to the Bar Association. You have the President of the Bar Association, a person who has 18 years service.
Remember, your time is up.
18 years service as an attorney at law in this country. And she's being referred to as a lackey. A lackey is sometimes worse than an idiot.
Would you bring your speech to an end, please?
And this is the type of culture within the Barbados, within the Democratic Labour Party. But Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker,
Deputy Speaker,
I would just like to say, in closing, I recall in the 1976 election, the Dean of St. Michael's Cathedral, his famous words with respect to the government of that day, "Mene, mene, tekel upharsin, thou art weighed in the balances and are found wanting." This government is weighed in the balances and found wanting. I was reading a book which reminded me of the leadership of this present government and the Prime Minister. The leader who had no team. The leader who ran out of time.
You are out of time, remember.
Dan White's book,
Take your
Terrible Leader,
seat.
I recommend to you. I'm obliged to you.